Just as we talked about in the pre-fight, Eddie likes to open with the inside leg kick. Conor is prepared and checks the kick. Then we saw Conor showing Eddie the left and leaning, then Conor just turns it on and fires the missile. Eddie eats it, but also throws an inside leg kick that knocks Conor off balance. Great kicks by Eddie, knowing Conor leans heavy on that lead leg. Here's a nice sequence from Eddie staying out of Conor's range and checking him with the left. I thought we were definitely going to see more checks from the left hand of Eddie in this fight, but he didn't really use it much. We see Eddie land another leg kick, but now Conor is returning fire. Teeps keep Eddie backing up, and the last thing Eddie wants to do is skim the perimeter of the octagon against Conor. Eddie tries to negate this by using feints and level changes. We talked about this pre-fight. Look how far Conor is leaning in, showing Eddie that left hand and just slowly putting it out there. This is to bait Eddie in, and Eddie takes it. Eddie opts for the lead right hand, and Conor counters the same sequence that ends the fight in the second round. The only difference being there is one more right hand at the end. It's foreshadowing. In the pre-fight, we also talked about how Eddie would look for that single leg, and he did. Conor was prepared though. Eddie level changes, sees Conor's reaction, then dives in for the leg. Watch how Conor slips his right leg back. Conor knows Eddie is looking for that single leg. Conor has an underhook, is fighting Eddie's left hand, and he pushes up on the arm. Not the prettiest setup for a takedown, but when you don't have your range established on the feet, it makes a takedown much harder. These are the feints, looks, and level changes I was expecting from Eddie, reaching for the leg, showing a jab, a lot of movement, but then Eddie looks for a huge uppercut. And although we've seen him use this before, I really didn't expect him to use it against Conor. That is a lot of range to cover. Here we see more of the same, Eddie leading with the right, Conor countering with the left. At this point, Eddie has very little movement and is so focused on slipping punches. Conor just slips in, closes that distance, and knocks Eddie down again. What did work for Eddie were his feints and his combinations. When he led with his left hand rather than right, it was more successful. Still, even when Eddie would pressure forward and set things up, Conor would capitalize on Eddie's guard being down. And like we talked about in the pre-fight, Eddie can sometimes be really tight and technical, but sometimes he also gets a little reckless. There were glimpses of the game plan, but you can tell it began to fall apart. I think Conor is better at establishing his rhythm and his range early. I thought Eddie's shot selection would be different, and I expected a hell of a lot more movement. Nonetheless, Conor finished the fight in the second round with the same combination he used in the first.